Can this nation finally heal? In other words, can the 10 FBS commissioners and Notre Dame finally pass the college football expanded playoffs, possibly starting in 2024? Can it happen? Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. Let's get it right into it. Yesterday was a momentous day in college football. A lot of breaking news. And is it all connected? I'm starting to think maybe it is. For this quick episode, we're going to be discussing the possibility of the college football playoffs finally expanding from 4 schools to 12 schools. Let's get in with ESPN, Heather Dinich and Pete Thamel. We're going to get into this article. Sources, CF board managers to meet with momentum towards playoff expansion. The College Football Playoffs Board of Managers will hold a virtual meeting on Friday that could accelerate playoff expansion as early as 2024 if the 11 presidents and chancellors who comprise the sport's most powerful group vote on a format and unanimously agree to it, sources confirmed to ESPN on Wednesday. This was yesterday. There's momentum, a source with knowledge of the conversations told ESPN. There's definitely momentum. The source indicated it was 50-50 whether there'd be any kind of vote on Friday. Sports Illustrated first reported the meeting. College football executive director Bill Hancock declined to confirm or deny the report. The College Football's Management Committee, which is comprised of the 10 FBS commissioners and Notre Dame Athletic Director Jack Swarbrick, is expected to meet next week to continue its expansion discussions, but the members are waiting to hear what the presidents decide, if anything, on Friday. If there is momentum toward an expanded playoff within the current contract, this meeting would give the commissioners an opportunity to pore over the details of the structure by the president. While sources indicated there's some confidence at the commissioners level that some type of expansion will pass, the future of college football playoffs remains at an unpredictable whims of a group of college presidents. Okay, we're going to skip a few paragraphs here, but basically, a committee is meeting this Friday. They may vote or they may not vote. According to the source to ESPN, it's 50-50 whether they push it on to all the commissioners of the FBS and Notre Dame. Remember, if this contract, if the playoffs are expanded from 4 to 12 schools, college football playoffs, before this current contract ends, it needs a consensus vote. It needs everybody to vote yes on the change. Okay, that's very important. So you need everybody on board. Let's get back to the article. By choosing to remain at 4 teams or 4 more years, the 10 FBS conferences and Notre Dame forfeited $450 million in potential revenue. Since then, the ACC, Big Ten, and Pac-12 have voiced public support for expansion. We're going to skip down here a little bit. While there is a sense that the process is moving very rapidly, sources indicated there is also concern that it might be rushed, with too many unanswered questions remaining. If the presidents were to vote on a format, there is still debate among the commissioners about whether the conference champion should automatically qualify for a spot, how revenue should be distributed, and what the bowl system would look like, particularly the Rose Bowl. American Athletic Conference Commissioner Mike Oresco said his conference is open to 12 or 16 teams, and that given all 10 FBS conferences championships, automatic bids would be ideal. Don't think that's going to happen. Okay, and I'm going to skip down to here. This is a very important part. Further conference realignment also remains a factor, as sources have indicated that Big Ten expansion beyond the pending additions of USC and UCLA is possible. Okay. So, as we all know, a year ago, Greg Swanky, SEC commissioner, Bob Bowlesby, at that time Big 12 commissioner, their committee created a proposal for the college football playoffs to expand from 4 schools to 12, from 4 teams to 12. Right now we have a situation where there's a 14 playoffs. It's not really a playoff, it's an invitational. Basically 4 at-large bids. There's no automatic bids for a conference championship to enter the playoffs as we see now. The proposal was to go to 12 schools. And in that proposal, 6 of those spots would be the top 6 ranking conference champions. The top 6 conference ranking champions would automatically qualify for this 12-team playoffs. The other 6 spots would be at large bids. So there'd be 12 teams qualifying. The 4 top ranked conference champions, it has to be a conference champions, would get a bye in the first round. The other 8 schools would play 5 through 12th seed based upon rankings at the end of the year. And that first round games would be played at a home campus, the school that's a higher ranked school than the team they're playing. So 5 versus 12, 6 versus 11, 7 versus 10, 8 versus 9, and the high ranked schools would have a home game at their campus in the first round. That was inside the proposal that many believe was going to pass, but then Big Ten, ACC, and PAC all hit the pause button for different reasons. Big Ten hit the pause button on this expansion talk for expanded playoffs because they wanted to make sure that other media companies got involved in the bidding of the playoff content because they didn't want ESPN to control all the playoff content, and now they will not be able to. Okay, this is what I think Fox is getting in return for all the deals that they're making with ESPN, Oklahoma, and Texas, which we're going to get to in a second. But this was the proposal. It did not make it through. Okay, it caused a lot of drama within college football among the universities. As you can see in this article, not passing this playoff expansion would cost a lot of money to the universities because there's a lot of money to be made. To put up 11 playoff live events, 11 playoff games, to have it bid on by ESPN, Fox, and other media companies is going to bring a lot of revenue into all the universities. And all these universities have suffered through the pandemic, right? They all lost money. They all have big budget holes in their budgets. Revenue was lost. And the universities are still, they take out loans, they're paying back the loans to bridge loans to bridge the gap of the money they lost during the pandemic. So this is a big deal. This is being brought up again now. Possible college football playoff expansion from 4 to 12 schools. There is some reports that going to 16 teams has some support. But right now it looks like it could end up at 12. Okay? Very exciting news. We're going to know a lot more this Friday when this committee votes on it, whether to push it forward to the commissioners and to Notre Dame. Let's get back to some other news that I think is probably all connected in my mind anyways. Let's see what you have to say. Please put down comments. I read all your comments in the section below this video. Please hit the like button if you like this content. Please subscribe to the channel. It helps us so much. And share the video. Please share this video with your friends. Appreciate it a lot. Okay, let's get back. Here was some breaking news yesterday and a day full of breaking news. Dennis Dodd, Big 12 opens media rights negotiations ahead of schedule. Early exit for Oklahoma and Texas being considered. As you all know, Texas and Oklahoma is leaving for the SEC. From the Big 12 to the SEC in 2025. Oklahoma and Texas do not want to leave. They do want to leave early to the SEC, but they have that grant of rights. The Big 12 grant of rights, they would have to pay a big penalty, possibly $80 million a school, to leave it early. They don't want to do that. We all know SEC wants them to leave early. We know ESPN wants Texas and Oklahoma, possibly in 2024. 2024 seems to be the year that ties everything together here, right? 2024 is when UCLA, USC is going to the Big Ten. Now they're looking at possible 2024 as the year for the expanded college football playoffs. And now here's a report that Oklahoma and Texas are looking to try to leave to the SEC by 2024. 2024. That seems to be tying everything together. Okay, we're going to skip down here. Part of the breaking news yesterday, of course, was that the Big 12 was going to have their timetable moved up on their negotiations with their current media partners, ESPN and Fox. It's definitely, going to the article, Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports, it's definitely a piece of this puzzle, this Oklahoma-Texas separation, said a source familiar with the discussions. Those conversations are definitely happening and we're making progress. If Oklahoma and Texas ultimately leave the Big 12 early, Fox would likely have to be made whole financially because of the loss of the two lucrative TV rating winners prior to the end of the deal in 2025. Fox Big 12 valuation is based on those schools staying for the next 3 seasons. There is also a Big 12 early exit penalty to consider as breaking the existing grant of rights that would have to be negotiated, as we just discussed. A grant of rights binds the school television rights to the conference if it were to leave before the term of the media rights. Okay. In moving to open media rights negotiations, one industry source suggested the Big 12 was joining the Pac-12 at the buffet. The advantage for the Big 12 is what it will have 12 schools united going forward, even after departures of Oklahoma and Texas. So, I think all these stories connect. All these breaking stories from yesterday going on today, all of them connect. There is actually some coordination happening behind the scenes. The Big 12 now has the advantage over the Pac-12, as we discussed yesterday. Now they can discuss, I think that's going to happen next week, a new contract with ESPN and Fox. That takes away all the advantages that the Pac-12 had over the Big 12. Also, Big 12 has a bargaining chip to say, hey, we'll let Oklahoma and Texas leave early to the SEC, okay? But we get something in return for that. Everyone is scratching each other's backs. This is something Oklahoma and Texas want. They want to go to the SEC 2024. This is something that ESPN wants, SEC wants. Okay? And then what does Fox get out of all this? Again, we just read Dennis Dodd's report. Fox is going to have to be made whole on this. If Texas and Oklahoma leave early to the SEC, SEC's media rights are all owned by ESPN. Therefore, Fox loses out on the Oklahoma and Texas content earlier than they believe they would. So what does Fox get in return? I don't know. I would speculate that part of what Fox would get in return to make them financially whole is to have the college football playoffs expanded in 2024, and Fox gets now some of those playoff games, some of that content. And I would even stretch it a little bit further. I think everything is in motion to where Big Ten poaches the Pac-12 again with Oregon and Washington and possibly Stanford. And that the Big 12 was going to then tack on Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah. The Pac-12 is dying. The Big 12 becomes a 16-member conference. Oklahoma and Texas goes to the SEC. And the Big 10 goes to at least 18 schools. Possibly 19. And possibly they hit the pause button. Wait to Notre Dame. And here's the thing about the conference football playoffs. The expanded playoffs. Going from 4 to 12 schools. We go from 4 at-large bids to now 6 at-large bids, right? And this should help Notre Dame be able to stay independent in football, correct? They still have access to college football playoffs, especially in this expanded 12-team format because there's now 6 at-large bids. However, Notre Dame in this 12-team playoff proposal, they would never have a first-round bye. They would never have a first-round bye. Now, people out of Notre Dame say this doesn't bother them. Well, it doesn't bother them right now. But what about 3 years from now? In other words, only a top 4 ranked conference champions can get a bye in the first round. So Notre Dame goes 12-0, let's say, in the season. Let's say they defeated USC, Big Ten USC. And then USC wins the Big Ten championship. And USC is the 3rd-rated school after the final poll results. And Notre Dame's number 1 rated school in the polls. USC, under this 12-team format, would get a bye in the first round of the playoffs. Notre Dame would not. Notre Dame would have to win 4 games to win the national championship. USC would have to win 3 games. Is that going to sit well with Notre Dame? Really? Think about it. I like the 12-team format. I like how this proposal is. The only thing I had against it was I didn't want ESPN to control all the content. Going forward, now they will not. And I think that's healthy for the sport. Just like the NFL splits up their distribution of their playoff content to multiple networks, that's what should be done in college football. And it will be done. I like the 3 sections of the playoff format. You have incentive to finish in the top 4 rankings at the end of the year to get that first round bye. You have incentive, as best you can as a school, to finish either 5 through 8 to get that first round playoff game at home on your campus. And then you have the incentive, if you're sitting there in 16th spot in the polls going to the last week of the season, to get into that 9 through 12, just to get into the playoffs, to get to that 9 through 12 rankings. I like the proposal. I hope this gets voted in. If they go to 16, I won't have any problems with that. But I like the different layers of incentive built into this 12-team playoff. And I don't think after a few years of this, Notre Dame, yes, they have access, but they do not have equal access. They do not have equal incentive as an independent program. Again, maybe that's content for another episode down the road. But for right now, can we please heal this nation? Can we get this playoffs expanded? I hope the votes go our way on Friday to get it pushed to all the commissioners, from the committee to all the commissioners of the 10 FBS conferences and to Notre Dame. Because we need all of them to vote yes for this to pass. I'm praying that it happens. This Friday is a big day. Please leave your comments in the comments section below the video. Let me know what you agree or disagree with me on my take on this 12-team expanded playoffs. Until next time, from all of us at Peek Around the Corner to all of you, please, you all take care of each other. Thank you so very much.